I'm Alex Schwartz. I recently produced the Addams Family feature animated film and have been working in animation for about 15 years.
And I'm Conrad Vernon. I produced and directed the Addams Family film with Alex here. And I have been in animation for 25 years.
How did you start your career in animation?
I had a love of animation for a long time. Roger Rabbit really kindled that in me, and just really heavily got into animation, but never thought about it as a career. And then out of desperation at Long Beach State, when I was studying graphic arts, I was looking at a 6-year, just sitting around at a college for 6 years to do something I really didn't want to do. So I got a little panicked and desperate and called Disney Studios, the front desk, and I said, how do you do animation? What do you do? How do you get into this business? And they said, well, there's a place that most of the artists here go, up in Valencia, California, called CalArts. And so I called up there and turned in a portfolio. I got accepted, and the rest is kind of history. I went to school and I got my first job after the first year with Ralph Bakshi on a movie called Cool World, and worked on Cool World, and from then on, that's how I got into the industry.
It's a little different for me. I had great passion for movies. Growing up, I wanted to make movies. I wanted to be surrounded by movies. And I also did not know exactly how I was going to make that happen, and there were a few inroads. I made documentaries for a little while, and then I just moved to Los Angeles I lived in New York, that's where the industry was and I was going. And I had no real idea, again, how I was going to sort of insinuate myself. But similarly, I ended up at Disney in a funny way where I just said to somebody like, I had a terrible job as an assistant. And I was like, I have to get out of here. And this woman said to me, well, do you want to come and be a creative executive at Disney? And I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about, but yes, I definitely want to come and do that. So I went and I worked at Disney for about 8 years, but I was working in live action. And sometime later, because then I became, I was an executive, I ran some companies, I produced some movies, and then I was at a company where I was fired along with everybody else, which is, part of the course at some point in Hollywood. And because I had worked with Jeffrey Katzenberg at Disney, and he now had DreamWorks, he called me and said, do you want to come over to DreamWorks and run our development here in animation, and, basically changed my whole life.
Your last feature film is The Addams Family. Was it challenging to work on a franchise that has been in cinema history from the 60s?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we wanted to make sure that, one of the big daunting challenges of this was to make sure that our version was going to stand on its own, that it didn't, it wasn't a remake of the TV show in the early 90s movies. We had to think about, how are we going to make this different from anything else that's already been done?
And one of the great immediate opportunities was, because it was animated, we could make it look very unique and special and use the original designs that Charles Addams, originally made for the cartoons in the New Yorker magazine. So it has, I think, a really distinctive look to it, which people seem to be enjoying. Yeah,
it pays homage to what he did, while at the same time looking brand new.
But it was, there were fans of the TV show, of the Barry Sonnenfeld movies, of this property who, always when you have a fan base, they're not the largest group of people that are going to go to the movie, but they're the loudest group of people that are going to go to the movie.
Yeah.
And, we wanted to, not because we were pandering to anybody, but, you want to make sure that you're really serving the authenticity of the property.
Yeah, you want to make sure the audience likes what you're doing, the fans and the new generation that we're bringing into this. So we had kind of, two audiences to look to.
The character design is unique. What was the process to obtain it?
Well, when we first started out to figure out the look of the characters, it was, we did want to go back to the original Charles Addams designs because that had not been done yet. It had never been done in animation as a film. And it hadn't, no one had ever actually gone back to the original designs to use them. in the movie. So I got our character designer Craig Kellman on board, and he went back to those original Charles Addams designs and then took those and just started to realize them in a more three-dimensional way, but still keeping the essence of what he created what Charles Addams created in 1938. It wasn't a long process, but there was like some very, very subtle things we needed to do.
Yeah, it was very specific, very careful.
Yeah. Just like changing noses and eyes, that's how specific it got.
Necks and heels.
Yeah, exactly.
So a whole lot to talk about the heels.
Yeah, I mean, it got a little tedious, but we wanted to make sure we got this right. So we even went into the opposite direction. We had a guy named Shane Glines do some stuff that was just completely in the opposite direction to make sure that we were leaving no stone unturned. But once we saw the complete opposite direction, we knew we were on the right track with Craig.
Another idea that Conrad had that I think is one of the distinguishing things about this movie also is that we meet the characters of Gomez and Morticia before they have become the Addams family. So we meet them at their wedding.
It's kind of an origin story.
So it's more of an origin story, exactly. And we see how they came to be in America, how they found their house, how they met Lurch, how a lot of these sort of origins of what we're all accustomed to from the movies and the TV series. So that is different.
Yeah, this was all in an effort to make it original and unique unto itself, to explore parts of the Addams family that no one's ever explored before, their past, their history, how they got to know each other, how they became what we know them to be today.
And certainly, it was occurring to me that in the movies, the Barry Sonnenfeld movies, the movies tended to be about Gomez and Uncle Fester. Like the drama tended to be focused on those two characters. And for Charles Addams, really the access point character, the main character, is Morticia. And our movie really is, it's about the whole family, but the big story is really Morticia and Wednesday, which, is also an opportunity that hadn't really been explored before.
Yeah, Charles Addams was actually on the TV show. He was a writer, and he helped develop that TV show. And so we found these paragraphs that he had written about each of the characters, and Morticia was number one. He said she's the matriarch of the family, she is the center of the family, she's the soul of the family. She's the one who calls shots, everything revolves around her. So we thought that, this would be great to make this her movie. The movie is seen through her eyes.
What is the aspect that you like the most about the Addams family?
I think the weirdness of them. They're a loving family and they love each other, and we can relate to them because Morticia and Gomez care deeply about Wednesday and Pugsley, and they love their parents and all that. But I think I put it this way once. I said what I loved about watching the Addams Family when I was a kid is you felt like you were safe in a very unsafe place, and you could be in a weird, creepy, dangerous world, but you knew nothing bad was going to happen because they were there.
You know what else I like about them? They have this almost, sort of demonic zeal. They're excited, they're enthusiastic, they're very optimistic. I mean, they're into dark things and weird things, and they like creepy things, but they're enthusiastic about them, and they're very accepting, they're very positive. It's kind of, they're great people.
Yeah, and the strange becomes kind of normal.
Sure.
Yeah, well, I mean...
And the normal to them is strange.
Yeah. When they go out and meet normal people, they think they're odd. But if you really, look at the way they interact with everyone, it's the Addamses that are more accepting than society of them.
What is your personal definition of animation?
Well, I mean, the first thing that popped into my mind was the illusion of life. Which is such a cheesy answer. It's like Doug Henning type of answer. But yeah, it's kind of like, so many times people try to push animation into a genre, like it's a horror movie or a romance comedy or something like that. It's a medium, and it's just I think it is giving the illusion of life to an inanimate object. So whether you're using sand or clay or drawings or anything like that, if you give it the illusion of moving around and having life, that's animation to me. I mean, that horror movie Reanimator was about a guy who gave dead tissue life again. So he was animating it. That's my definition.
I mean, I love the process of animation more than I love live action, is really what it comes down to. I mean, either medium can bring me a movie that I will absolutely love and be passionate about. I mean, I love all film, really. But making an animated film is a very unique experience because of the maker aspect of it. You know, I mean, where no object is too small to have been thought about and created by people, making art. And I also think because of the nature of what it takes to make animation, the people doing it, or at least in my fortunate experience, are unbelievably talented and really great at what they do and care greatly about what they do. And not to say that you don't find that in live action, but there's quite a span of sort of what you can, slide through in live action, I think, versus animation.
Yeah, I think a good example of that, what you're talking about, is when we were doing Sausage Party, we were dealing, with people who had only done live action, not just Seth and Evan, but the people at Columbia Pictures in general had never made an animated film before. And so we wanted to keep them in the loop as to what we were doing. And, I think once a week we'd sit down with them and show everything we'd done that week, which included linoleum tiles and desks and shelving in the grocery store, and this is what the light bulb's going to look like, this is what the ceiling fans are going to look like. And people were just like nodding off and starting to fall asleep. They're like, yeah, it all looks great. It's great. We don't need to see this part of animation anymore. But they did realize and appreciate the fact that there are artists that have to sit down and literally design a wheel for the bottom of the shopping cart. Everything's got to be thought of. So it
all becomes part of the storytelling. It's like a kind of a really robust way of telling a story. Yeah, I mean, it's a way of really putting a story, and like you said, the illusion of life, as the book says, fully through the filter of artist's vision. And I mean, there are many artists through whom it filters in the making of an animated movie, but it's like all of it has to pass through this kind of filter of an individual's perspective. Nothing comes off the rack, as they say.
Yeah,
I love that.
It's true. As when you're, it's like this hierarchy where the director has the film in his head, but you've got teams of people that are realizing that. And I'm always one of those people that loves having people who know what they're doing more than I know how to do what they're doing. I don't know how to do layout as well as our head of layout and our layout team. I don't know how to animate as well as our animators. I don't know how to character design as well as our character designers. I love watching artists create, and that's what I love about directing, is like, getting them on board with my vision, exciting them about the project that we're making, and then seeing what they bring back. It's pretty exciting. In the process of it, especially when it gets to lighting. I mean, the storyboard process is the first time you get visually to see the film, so that's really exciting. And then the camera process is great. The animation process, the characters come to life. But then when the lighting comes back and you start to see the finished film, that's when everyone's just like going, oh my God, we're making a movie. I can't believe this. It's very cool.
Yeah.
What do you like the most about being a producer?
What I really love is storytelling. And I feel like a great deal of my job, there's a lot of organization to it and a lot of, managing of people and making sure the river is continuing to flow within the banks and all of that is the storytelling aspect. Because I feel like I get to keep a view of the bigger picture often more than other people that are collaborating on the film, because people have their attention on the task at hand. And I really like to make the vision of what the film wants to be the goal, so it's not solving the problem of this, it's what is the movie trying to be, and make sure that everything is serving that. That's something that I
How did you start voice acting?
That started out of necessity, because basically when we put the film up on storyboards, we need to have voices in there so that we can watch the film, and a lot of the artists just pop into the booth and they play the characters so that we can.
We all do.
Yeah, I mean, she was doing a voice, I was doing voices, and it first started when I did the Gingerbread Man Shrek, and I pitched that voice when I was pitching the boards, and they said, well, why don't you come do that for our story reel? And so I did it for the story reel, and then they were going to go out and find a proper actor, to replace me with. And they had 4 or 5 people come in and audition, and none of them, hit that character as well as what I created when I boarded it in the first place. And they said, we have to use your voice. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And so I did that voice, and then people said, oh, you're good at this. Why don't you try playing the monkey in Madagascar? I did that. And I said, oh, well, why don't you try playing, a roll of toilet paper and sausage party? All right, that's fine too. So it just became something that was kind of accidental. So it wasn't like anything that I was striving towards.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.